The Keep is one of Michael Mann's lesser-known movies, but the 1983 supernatural horror has aged very well, and it proves Mann should try his hand at the genre again. Auteur film director Michael Mann has been making movies since 1981 with his feature debut, The Thief, and since then, he's earned 10 Golden Globe nominations and 12 Academy Award nominations with 1 win. Most of his movies are crime dramas and thrillers, and his ability to depict action on screen has yet to be topped. One of his earliest films revealed a real talent for horror as well. In The Keep, a World War II horror movie starring Gabriel Byrne, Alberta Watson, Scott Glenn, and Ian McKellen, a group of Nazi soldiers arrive at a mountain fortress in the Carpathian Mountains. Hoping to take control of the nearby pass in the waning stages of World War II, the Nazis accidentally unleash a malevolent spirit known as Rodu Malesa, who proceeds to kill the Nazis but also drives the innocent villagers of the nearby village mad. Frightening, intense, and with all the visual flair Mann can provide, The Keep has aged very well, and Mann should consider trying horror again. The Keep developed a cult following after initially bombing. Michael Mann's horror movie has been reappraised in recent years. After the success of Thief, a modestly plotted and made film that earned double its budget at the box office, via Box Office Mojo, and an 80% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, expectations were high for Michael Mann's next feature. So it was a bit of a surprise when Mann announced his next film would be a historical horror movie starring Nazis and featuring a supernatural monster, kept locked in a keep. The film opened to poor reviews, with only a handful of critics offering lukewarm praise at best, and the movie still only has a 39% on Rotten Tomatoes. Mann's psychedelic film techniques, which can sometimes feel like style over substance, are turned all the way up in The Keep. Some critics mentioned how confusing the film is at times, with rock, disco, high fashion, and other unusual combinations coming together for a chaotic mix that makes even the dialogue hard to hear. It's not a straightforward film, and the visceral gore and changing allegiances between characters made some audiences unable to get a grip on what kind of story Mann was trying to tell. However, over the decades, there's been a reappraisal of The Keep, and a cult following has slowly but surely developed. Michael Nordine of LA Weekly wrote about his feelings on the film in 2013. The Keep has a lot in common with Mann's other, more popular movies, but he infuses it with some truly horrifying imagery. It's unlike anything else in his oeuvre, and there are even fewer horror movies with similar senses. It's in a league of its own. Maybe not a better league, but standing out in the always packed field of horror movies is something worth commending, and it means that The Keep, for all its faults, sticks with viewers, which is all any director can really hope for. Michael Mann faced significant production problems with The Keep. Mann's VFX supervisor passed away soon after the start of pre-production. Malesa staring at someone in The Keep. There's a chance that Michael Mann's original plan for The Keep would have made the horror movie a critical success right out the gate, rather than having to wait 30 decades for the recognition it deserved. Mann had a director's cut for his horror movie that ran for 210 minutes, but Paramount eventually forced the director to cut down his movie to its current 95-minute run time, via Screened. With so many strange cuts and jumps, which people have come to love, it's worth wondering if Mann's original version was a more standard horror film. More tragically, Mann's visual effects supervisor, Wally Vivas, passed away 2 weeks into post-production, via Bloody Disgusting. There were still hundreds of effect shots that needed to be completed, and no one was totally sure of what Vivas' plans were for the final look of his shots. Mann originally intended for a massive, visually stunning battle between the Malesa and Glenn, but without Vivas he was forced to change his ending. Mann wanted to reshoot and try a different ending, but Paramount refused to grant more money to the already over-budget and overlong The Keep, and the director had to end his film on more of a whimper than he ever intended. The succeeding years of Mann's filmography make a good case that had Mann been allowed to stay true to his vision and complete The Keep on his terms, there would be no need for the film to be reappraised as a cult classic. It would simply be a classic of horror cinema. Human failures at a systemic level are still relevant themes from The Keep. Mann shows that it isn't always the individual who is at fault. Eric Kempfer, Gabriel Byrne, staring at Stragny Monument in The Keep. No matter how anyone feels about the style of The Keep, there's no denying it has a fascinating and eerily relevant message in the modern world. That is, if viewers can understand it through the off-kilter storytelling style. The Keep may feature a unit of Nazis at its center, and it certainly doesn't shy away from showing their violent demise, but Mann's film also refuses to blame any one individual for the events of the film. There is no major tote like in Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's a system that Mann blames for humanity's failings.